This is Lance Bryce. Hope you are doing well. We are seeing a little bit of movement in the bond market in the right direction this week. We're going to talk more about it. Today is the 17th of July, Thursday. All right, got a lot of news this week on the inflationary front. And again, we've talked many times on this video about how that hasn't mattered a whole lot with the Fed recently. So we might get into that a little bit more today, but I think we covered it pretty much last week. Consumer Price Index came out on Tuesday. This is the read of inflation at the retail level. It was as expected, y'all. Came in at 2.7%. It was replacing 2.4% in the prior month. It was at expectations. Market expected 2.7, and that's what they got. One of the reasons that we saw a higher number, y'all, is we're comparing it to where we were a year ago. And a year ago, in June, the CPI was at 0.0%, y'all. So we're replacing no inflation with some inflation, and that's one of the reasons that number's popping a little bit higher. Bottom line is, it didn't surprise the bond market. It came in right where it was expected. That actually gave us a little bit of relief in the bond market. Producer Price Index came out a day later, Wednesday, yesterday. Lower than expected, came in at 0%, y'all. So we are not seeing the effect of tariffs at the wholesale level as many are predicting that we would. If we are going to see it, it hasn't shown up yet. I have no doubt that as we add taxes to the supply chain, we're going to see that reflected in higher prices at some point. But so far, the data is not showing that. And as we have explained many times on this video, that doesn't mean that inflation is the cause. Adding a singular transient cost to an item is not a reflection of inflationary pressure, y'all. It may push prices higher in the near term. That doesn't mean that it's inflation that caused it. That's something, again, that I have repeatedly said the Fed is well aware of, and they're choosing to ignore it. So in any event, good news on the inflation front, and we needed it because after that strong BLS jobs report that we got on July the 3rd that was much stronger than expected, we've seen a sell-off in the bond market since that employment report came out. So we've had 2 weeks of lower bond prices and higher yields. Nothing major, y'all, but it's been a little bit incremental in going in the wrong direction over the last 2 weeks. The good inflationary news this week put a stop to that, put a floor under it, and we're actually seeing a little bit of a bid in the bond market that's pushing rates a little bit lower. Here's where Mortgage News Daily has us for the daily update. These are national averages. Again, today, 6.82%. According to Mortgage News Daily, 1 week ago, we were 6.79. So even with the good news this week, we are just now getting about back to where we were a week ago after a pretty rough week of increases. 6.88 is where we were a month ago. So we are a hair better than we were 30 days ago. Bottom line is, y'all, over the last 30 days, rates haven't moved much. They've trended a little bit lower at the first part of the month, a little bit higher in the last 15 days or so. Overall, they're about where they've been. So we're trading at a very tight range in bond prices. What does that mean as far as a Fed cut is concerned? Well, y'all, when you look at the Fed minutes after their last meeting, you see a lot of follow the leader commentary from the voting members. And you're seeing some, Chairman Warsh as an example, who may be moving to the top of the list as far as a potential replacement candidate for Chairman Powell. He is now vocally coming out and saying, hey, we need to get together better as a Fed. This is not supposed to be just us following what the chairman says he wants. This needs to be a true vote of the members on where they are, and he's made it pretty clear that he's in favor of cuts. So I think you will see him moving to the top of the list. Should Jerome Powell step down, I think it's very unlikely that the president would fire him. That would be unprecedented at the Fed level. And frankly, I don't know, even with my strong disagreement for Powell, that I would want to see that. I don't think the bond market would react favorably to that at all, and I think we would get the opposite of what we want, just out of concern over instability at the Fed. So I don't think we want to see instability at the Fed by firing Powell. I think that would be very disruptive to the bond market, and disruption of the bond market means higher rates. So I think the president is aware of that. He's got good economic advisors around him, and I think that's why Powell is going to stay there until Powell decides he doesn't want to, or until his term expires, I believe, next May. So in any event, that's the news that we have had so far on that front. And y'all, I'm going to do some future videos focusing really on the affordability side, because I am seeing a lot of push. We've always seen it at the builder level. We're starting to see it more on the retail origination side as well, looking for short-term solutions for long-term problems. Y'all, there is no short-term solution for the affordability issue. When rates come down, we're going to see prices go up. We're going to see more problems with inventory when you start addressing the front end cost of a monthly payment with lower rates. And that's going to obviously fill in to higher prices, and higher sales prices equal higher monthly payments. So there is no quick solution to this. What there needs to be is a deep analysis at the end of the day by a retail loan officer on what somebody can afford. Bottom line, can you afford this house? Can you afford it for the next 5 years, the next 7 years, the next 10 years? Is it affordable for you? Because that is ultimately the question that we're asking. And we can look at all the gimmicks in the world about how to make it more affordable today, like a 2-1 buy down, asking the seller to pay some of the interest on your loan to buy it down for the first 2 years, and then the rate's going to be right back to where it was. So it's kind of an example of what I would view as a short-term solution. Versus if we took that same amount of money and applied it towards a permanent buy down, maybe we can get your rate low enough by buying it down 2, if not 3 points. Maybe that makes more sense when you look at it through the lens of, if we're 5 years away from rates decreasing enough to refinance that mortgage, well, maybe you bought it down enough to where you didn't have to spend that amount of money to buy down that mortgage for a future refi. Again, let's look at this from a long-term standpoint of affordability. Can you afford it where prices are today? That's the bottom line answer that every loan officer ought to be striving to provide to their clients, right? It makes no difference how much in love you are with that house if you stare at the ceiling in a cold sweat every night, unable to sleep over making the payment every month. You don't want to destroy your quality of life. So ultimately, this process is designed to make sure you're comfortable with it. And I'm happy to provide those answers, y'all. It's ultimately what we do for a living. Always blessed and thankful to be able to do that. So feel free to call me anytime. You got my contact info on the screen. And as always, stay blessed, stay safe, and we'll update you again next week.